Benedetta is here today presenting her work, and so thanks very much, Benedetta, and I leave you the word.
Thank you, Silvia. So, hello everybody. Tonight I thought that they told me from IAAC, oh, you should explain the Spanish pavilion that you have been building in Expo Shanghai 2010. But I thought that maybe we can go through, even if it's quickly, with the Barcelona work or our Spanish work, more or less, because you're here, maybe you're here not for so much time, maybe you already visited everything, but it's a little kind of explaining how was this project, this Barcelona project, as an experience in the studio. Now, for example, I think Santa Caterina, which maybe you might know, which is a market in the center of Barcelona, and also we have been working on the master plan of the city next to it, which is called Santa Caterina, also Santa Caterina neighborhood. It has been a fantastic project for us. I think it is very deeply important, and it was one of these projects that you do without planning before, you know. We were Enric Miralles and myself, we were a couple doing architecture. He was more expert than me, but we had very seldom had the opportunity to do something in Barcelona. So we started this project, as I always say, as a kind of egoistic project. We wanted this to be a better place, we wanted this to be our neighborhood, and we had been working together with the authorities in order to arrive to this. No? Now this is maybe more evident that this is a project now with more air, with more light, but we had been struggling for it, really, from the inside. And this was the image, how it was, Barcelona. Barcelona was, this was the market, we lived just next to here, and this was one of the photographs of the old city from the top. That's why the old city was so worked in order to make air coming in. So at a certain moment the authorities decided this market is very old, we don't want it, we want to keep only a little bit and then destroy it. So we were working with the authorities saying, oh, please don't destroy it, let's try to rework together this piece of city that you want to throw on the floor, and also this old market that you want to throw on the floor. And our strategy was very, I have to say, very naive at the beginning, you know. This politician we were talking to, they were very expert in how to transform a city, you know. We had the luck to have politicians which stayed a long time. The socialist politicians stayed a very long time, and this made them become very, very expert on what the city needed. And we didn't know very much, but we were starting to say, come on, don't do new buildings in the old city as if it's a periphery, like with a courtyard in the middle and the perimeter around. Let's try to transform a little bit the old city by maintaining the rules. For example, if you need a new building, you just put it next to an existing one. If you need to make an opening, you make an opening which is similar to the old city system. Maybe the streets don't need to be a kind of an avenue, which is a kind of a last century idea, but maybe we will create here a series of spaces which are not completely streets, not completely piazzas. It's just a series of events which are happening, which is really the way of functioning of the old city of Barcelona. And then also the market, we said, okay, the market should be together with this new opening in the neighborhood of Santa Caterina. Maybe we can do a smaller market, but let's don't forget what was before. Let's integrate it in the existing. And also, let's make this market which is now invisible, a little more visible from the Piazza Catedral, from Via Laietana, so that maybe it will be a point of attraction. People will go there and will discover the new doorway going into a piece of the city which was always closed down. So this pergola, or this very special roof, till the very beginning, where we were not very sure how it was working, we knew that they had to be something like a point of attraction for everybody to arrive here and to discover this new piece of city and this new market. And I have to say, we were in love personally with the market. I was going personally, when I could go with Enric, we were going together, and it was a discovery. You know, going in the market, I always say, is better than going to the psychoanalyst. You really have a treatment. They treat you fantastically well. You try, you go, and you will see that they say, oh, hello, how are you? Oh, your accent is fantastic, you speak a wonderful Spanish, and if you speak Catalan, you speak a wonderful Catalan, blah, 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 and then you go out with a lot of fruit, a lot of vegetables, absolutely happy. And we wanted this happiness, which is actually there also in the image that you get when you get inside a market, to become visible outside, to become perceivable by everybody in the city. So we did our effort to put this inside of the market, also outside, also for everybody. And in the same time integrating the history of Barcelona in this point. The history of Barcelona is very dense, and you have a lot of it. And the market was built on top of the destroyed monastery. So we kept the many layers of the destroyed monastery, the market that they wanted to build and they didn't build. We kept it in many drawings, and most of our models were also considering the old church, which was not existing anymore, the old cluster, the old pieces, so that the project we were doing on Santa Caterina was going together with that incredible overlapping of different layers of history. And then there was a moment, which was this moment, which was really incredible. And this overlapping, which we were doing on the drawings and on the models, at a certain moment became real. No? And it became real and visible for everybody. Everybody was kind of shocked when we had this archaeologist digging and making this space a kind of archaeological space. Also, the archaeologists didn't know what to do, because they had so many layers, one on top of the other, you know, the Romanic layers, the Gothic layers, the market layer, last century layers, also what the monks were doing in the 17th century. They didn't know what to do. So we had to help them in saying, okay, don't be bothered too much about explaining all the history to everybody. The history is there, the stones are there. Let's do something which is really necessary for Barcelona today. But nevertheless, we are very romantic, and we have also kind of romantic friends. This is a photographer who is an anthropologist, and we told him, please go there during the excavation and make some wonderful photos. And these are only a little spots on his capacities of going inside the earth of Santa Caterina and discovering what the skeletons, what the many dead bodies which were there would have seen when finally Santa Caterina was opened up, and they suddenly started to look at the city and say, oh my God, we stayed here so many centuries and now we see the city again, or the sky again. So in a way we were really very paying a lot of homage to this place. I was conscious that we were moving a lot of dead bodies. I mean, this is something that in a way, it's not so easy, no? But in the same time, I was very much respectful, or we were very much thinking about it, and we were feeling that this history was really mixing with the history, the recent history of building. This is the archaeology of the recent market, and this was the archaeology of the present, you know, or the future. These were the construction pieces which were brought there and which were looking exactly like the past. So in Santa Caterina we were learning very, very much about how history was really one thing and was really all together. And it was important to us. So then we had this experience of covering everything up. Some part of it will remain as the archaeology part, but then the roof started to become the real protagonist of Santa Caterina. And we wanted it to be a very light roof, and so we made a very big effort. The structural engineer were getting absolutely crazy working on this structure, which is making a big effort of not touching the floor of the inside of the market with nearly no pillars. So to do that, we needed very big structures on top of the roof, and this very big structure were keeping the roof up and were making this kind of aerial big possibility, which is usually done by contemporary architecture, but also mixing with the historical architecture and with the size of the historical arches which were already there. So the wood became very important, even if the wood was suspended by iron structures. And then on top of the wood, we wanted the roof to be very, very visible, as we were saying before, reminding the inside of the Santa Caterina market. So we did a kind of a crazy thing, no? At the beginning we thought, oh, this is a joke, we want to make a salad on the roof, a fruit salad. And then laughing a little bit, we started to have a couple of people making drawings from fruit salad to possibilities on the roof. And then we started to like it, and when we believe it, and then we had this ceramist, who is a fantastic ceramist. Now he's working with all the architects in the world, including Renzo Piano and everybody, who was making real these big drawings into ceramic tiles of many different colors, which then we disposed on the roof in kind of hexagon, which you see it's flexible, so it's easy to bring. Each hexagon has one color, and then it was really like working with pixels, so that from a distance you have a kind of a fruit salad image, which is becoming a kind of attraction for the city, or a present for the city, also a kind of a park for all the many, many, many windows which are around Santa Caterina. So this was the drawing, and now the drawing is a kind of a reality, no? The people don't really realize that it's a fruit salad, but it's a kind of the same attraction that when you're going inside the market and you want to buy, then you have this attraction of going at your window, going at the city, and you want to look at, you want to go there. You have the feeling that this is a kind of a very attractive point. So this attractive point was a strategy, you know, the strategy to say, this is open, this is new, this is for everybody. You have not to forget that only 10 years ago, this place was kind of a forgotten place where nobody was going. It was very closed up. And now Santa Caterina is helping into making this a kind of place for everybody to go, thanks to the attraction that this is doing on top of the people coming from the other side of the street, or the other side of Via Laietana. So we maintain pieces of the wall. No? This wall, I think, you know, the people from the Croquis, this book that is very, very famous here, they were telling me, oh, what a pity that you maintain that wall. This was very ugly. This must have been the city obliging you. It was not the city, it was that we decided to do that. Maybe we made a mistake, but we realized that this wall is it's an arch wall. An arch means going in and out. It's a very easy way to have a kind of a permeable wall. And we are not able to do arches anymore. It's very difficult. So we said, fantastic. We keep the old arches of Santa Caterina, and we try to make it very evident that the inside of the market and the outside of the market are more or less the same. So this space inside, where you can go and buy fruit and vegetables and all the fresh fruit, is like an open piazza, but you have a cover on top, and the cover looks very light, but then you can use the market to go in and out, to go from one place of the city to the other. And the city is a very complex city, as it is always the old city, you know, with housing, parking, market, commercial, public space, a lot of things happening. So this was, I think, a kind of an experiment to us, and I think it was the experiment that I like to explain very many times when I give a lecture, because it is something that was very important to our career. And also it's kind of nice, no? That we are neighbors and we try to make a better place there where we live and where we buy, and a better society. And this photographs is, we did these photographs, some people of the office, and I find them fantastic, because in a way it's really a kind of the reality of the place, a place of many ethnic immigration, and then the good public space maybe can make this immigration of very different people become more united, become more mingled, and working better. So in a way, I hope everything we do is in this sense. No, we do an architecture which is mainly trying to make a better place, and to make a better place for the society around, for the people around. For example, this is a gas natural. I love this photograph because you don't see the building, which is what's happening when you fly. No, you go on top of Barcelona. I always say, oh, I want to see the gas natural building. I mean, it's a 20-story building, kind of high, but you don't see it. You just notice it from the shadow. And this is because we like very much to make architecture which is integrated, very mingled with the surroundings. And this building, which was asked by a very big company, gas company, to be a kind of a landmark, it is in fact very much mingled with the rest of the city. So that also the skin is a kind of glass, so you get confused and sometimes you don't see it. No, it looks exactly like the sky. But what we are more proud about is that this very heart of the building, the very center, the most important part of the building, is a public space. Is in fact a kind of a street which goes from one side to the other, and which makes this building become a kind of a real public street. And it's really even a very, very, very private landmark becomes something which is open to the city. I think this is fantastic, and this happens very much in Barcelona. Barcelona, as I was telling you before, is a very civic city, and this I love very much. Of course, there is also a lot to say about the park we did in Diagonal Mar. Maybe you had the opportunity to go and visit. This was a park that we designed together with an American promoter coming to Barcelona. It was a very new situation. The American promoter was saying, I want kids in my park. And here it is. We did our best effort to have kids in this park. And then in Hamburg, where we are now designing another public space, we are also trying to make people and kids go there as much as possible. We had transformed an old harbor. You know, a harbor is a fantastic, fascinating place, but very different very difficult to use as a person. We have transformed it in order to have a lot of people coming, a lot of people having the possibility to get amused with this incredible space. So maybe that's why there are so many little things happening, so many benches, so many little different levels. And many people in Hamburg, they were telling us when we were designing the project, oh, you're doing a very Barcelona thing, so this thing will not work in Hamburg. And now we have the revenge, you see, this is the revenge. This is Hamburg during the weekends. So everybody likes Barcelona, even if it's in Hamburg, even if they don't have this kind of fantastic weather that we have here. And I think it's a nice model that is nice to export, no? And it's nice to have this trying to export things and see the different reaction in different part of the city. We go fast here. It's a very nice project. It's in Galicia, in the north of Spain. We did a university campus here, and we were working on the mountain very much, changing the landscape of the mountain and creating a kind of a piazza and place where the students could go and the students could meet and gather. It's a nice project, very nice, but if we don't go fast, we cannot go to the rest of the projects. No? So the rest of the project is also one project which was very, very complicated, is the Scottish Parliament. The Scottish Parliament was the most institutional project that we had, and that's why the photograph I like most is this one, where the project, which is this, is getting totally mixed up with the rest of the city of Edinburgh in Scotland, and you don't know very well if this is part of the Parliament or not. It is now. It's an older house that we integrated. If the new Parliament is mixing with the imagination of Athens, and mainly you have these public spaces becoming the main focus of the Scottish Parliament. So again, we did our best to make, instead of an object which was the Parliament, a kind of a landscape, in order to give, through a building, the opportunity for the city to have a new public space and to have a new space related to the city. So you see the very, very complicated geometry and also an integration of the old city. We are in the very heart of Edinburgh. And I think this project is a project which is so complex, which is very difficult to tell. I am sure this project can be discovered much more in the future, because it's not so easy to explain, it's not so simple, but this idea of being a building which is not really institutional, it's more a kind of a people's building. This was our main idea, also the main idea of the client, and we did a very, very big effort in order to obtain that. So these are the images, no? The entry is here, no? In the shadow, so that you have a kind of a feeling that all the building is open for everybody on the ground level. And then on different levels you have these many materials, many things happening, which is kind of breaking the building and making the building a kind of a vibration in the city, so that you forget a little bit about this being a very big institutional building, and you get a little more confused and you think that this is a series of buildings integrated in the city, and the main chamber, the main part of it is a place which looks more like a boat than a real architecture. So that's why we used a lot of wood in the Scottish Parliament, in order to make it very much resemble to a boat or to a boat construction. So now that I was in the building, they are doing a disaster. They are doing a new entry, which is horrible. Of course, they didn't do it with us. They didn't ask any opinion. I have the option to go and go with the judges against the Scottish Parliament. Of course, I don't feel like doing it. But anyway, even if they are doing something like a new entry, which is a disaster, the building now is used and it is absolutely fantastic. So working very, very well. So I'm very, very happy that this building is now in the hands of the users, is now in the hands of these people, and it's really working very well. Maybe through that building they will arrive to independence. And if they do arrive to independence, they arrive to the hands of some Catalans. And maybe one day they will remind about that. I don't know. So it's a building which is working a long time. I'm sure it will work more and more and more. And all the buildings that I showed you before is, except from Hamburg, that we did by ourselves, most of them were started with Enric Miralles, and they were something very much in between. No? We were working without him during construction, but most of it were started with him. So we had a very close conversation. But then we started to do new buildings by ourselves. You know, Hamburg is one of them. But the most different one was this competition that we did in Shanghai. We did this competition without any hope to win it. You know, because we were saying, oh my God, they decided Madrid, we come from Barcelona, it's the Spanish Pavilion, we are Italian, impossible, we will not win. And in fact, we won. No? So this is the typical thing. When you have no hope, the things happen. No? So this is the best way to go towards a competition. No? When you think the day before, oh my God, we don't want to submit because it's horrible, this is a good one. So this was very late at night, and we were deciding that we wanted a building which was looking like a flamenco dancers, but we were also kind of ashamed about proposing directly a flamenco dancer. So we were saying, okay, flamenco dancers, a very fantastic flamboyant geometry, but also a material which is very typically Spanish that we are now forgetting, but which could give possibility to make big scale buildings, and which surprisingly is the same type of artisany, of handicraft in China. So we have, through this material, a kind of bridge between China and Spain, and we were very excited about that. No? We knew when we won it that we had a real problem, because we didn't know how to make a building in this wicker material or in this kind of handicraft material. But we knew that we were very resoluted, we really wanted to make it, and so we went around. No? We had a very beautiful moment when we went around Spain, and we were looking at this type of different handicraft in this type of materials, and we were trying to transform it into a big scale building. So through these renders, this started to be possible, but then we had to know how to build this very complex structure. So we decided to have very strong bones in a material that we knew we could manage, which was iron. Again, we had done a very complex series of projects with very complex geometries in iron, so we knew that we could do that. And then having a kind of a beautiful dress on top of these bones, and this beautiful dress, we will have time to think about it, no? And meanwhile we were kind of experimenting and trying to know how we could do the beautiful dress on top of the very complex structure of the Spanish Pavilion in Shanghai. So I always show the images of the studio. I have to say these images are very old, so now we are a little different. We have more computers. But in the office we have this wish, which is now different from IAAC, to use our hands very much. No, we like very much to have this making models by hands, when we can making drawings by hands, making collage by hands. And this is helpful because you know that most of the buildings are done by hands. And in this sense, the panels for the dress of the Spanish pavilion would be done by hands. So we were working with our hands to discover how the panels could be on top of the very difficult structure of the Spanish pavilion, and we discovered a kind of a shape which could be like tiles, let's say, and we could produce a kind of a prototype of panel, more or less 2 by 1, which is a good size. It's like the size of a bed, but also is a size that you can move, but it's not too small so that you need too many of them. And then when we arrived to this, we were giving this prototype in China. And we knew that we could use different colors, and then with the different colors we wanted to make a kind of a big inscription on top of the Spanish pavilion. When I show these photographs in China, they usually start to laugh because, I don't know, we wanted to make a poetry, but I don't know, probably it's a series of very simple ideograms saying peace, happiness, China and Spain are together, the illumination, the sky and the moon, and all these type of things, or the woods, becoming part of the facade of the Spanish pavilion, so nobody can really read them because they are ideogram and they are so big that it's impossible to read them. But our idea was that the sun and the elements and the climate would read all of this and consume it and diffuse all the good message in the air in the Expo. And this is the plan which I like most of the Expo Pavilion. The geometry is very complex, but it was also more complex because we had the people, and the people we knew that would have been so many, and going in and out and controlling the fluxes would be very complicated. So we had a kind of the Expo rooms, and here the restaurant, and here a smaller room, and you can go upstairs in the many offices, and a kind of a small auditorium. So all these places would have different fluxes of people, and we were kind of designing so that we knew how the spaces would flow with people. And also we designed the furniture because we didn't want the furniture to interrupt totally the space, but just to be a kind of a flowing part of the space, making little interruption, but letting people see all the space complete. Then there was this other incredible adventure. You have to imagine that we had never built in China before, and our clients were Spanish, and they were telling us, oh my God, maybe Chinese people are not able to build that. So maybe we will have to build it in Spain and send it to China in containers. This was really a kind of an idea. Then we discovered that Chinese people are very advanced in the capacity of building, also very fast, even if they use many times kind of how do you say, bamboo structures. In a way they know very well how to produce iron features with very complex geometries, and but they're still very, very in contact with their countryside. No, this bamboo stair is an example. No, and also they were using bamboo's floors during construction, so that it was always very, very mixed. This very technological building, it was very mixed with very natural materials. And also during construction you discover that people is the same all over the world. For example, builders, people who build the building were taking the same naps that they are taking in Spain, and they were using the building with a lot of love, you know, I have to say. They were really caring very much about building the building. And then it was fantastic to see how in Shandong, in the province, a little up Shanghai, they were receiving the prototypes that we built in Spain, and they were reproducing, kind of hundreds of these people were reproducing the prototypes. They just took a very old school, and these artisans, which usually work on producing little baskets or little things like this, they knew that they were now producing a facade for a very big building in Shanghai. So they were very proud. When you were going there, these 100 or more artisans were kind of the most happy people that we have ever seen in the construction in Shanghai, because they had this consciousness that they were changing from a very humble production for the countryside to a very visible production in their Expo, which was a very, very important part of it. And I was very proud that the handicraft was the protagonist of this. No? It was a big building, important building, but exactly like it happens in our studio, they were building the most important part of it with hands. And here you see, all these layers of the scaffolding is bamboo. But then they are preparing here all the secondary structure in order to receive the wicker bamboo skin, which was hanged on the place, on this secondary structure, which were cables. And at the beginning it was a very big emotion to us. We had never had the opportunity to see how this would look. Also at the beginning this was done behind a scaffolding, so we didn't know. And it was really incredible to receive at a certain time this photograph and to say, oh my God, it looks nice. So we are a little less scared, We were representing Spain. We were telling everybody that we would have an incredibly beautiful building, but we were using a technique that we never had the opportunity to check before, and which was totally experimental, and which could have been a disaster. I know on that day, I was not in China, but they were opening up these parts of the building with the wicker, and a friend of mine who is Fura das Baus, these theater people, we had been working together. He was in Shanghai because he was also doing something in the Expo. And I remember, and I'm very grateful to him, because he phoned me and he said, Benedetta, this looks wonderful. This is really fantastic. You don't know because you haven't seen it, but I will send you a film how this looks. And this was really reading in my soul, He was reading my fear and giving me the kind of, you don't have to worry, this will work well. And this was coming from another big experimental person, a friend who is working in the field of theater, but he works with experiments. And he knows very well that with an experiment you can have a good result, but also you are risking for a bad result. So you never know. But in Shanghai we were very, very happy. This photograph to me was incredible. He said, oh my God, this is like a new animal. This is an animal with a soul by itself, which is now born in the place of the Expo. And it's very similar to what we have designed, but we have never seen the reality of it. This is something new. This is something also unseen for us, who have been designing piece by piece, number by number, everything. It was something very new. So it was a wonderful surprise when we saw that the people in China liked it. Also when other people liked it, it was a kind of incredible satisfaction. And people started to make me notice that this building was kind of smelling, it was reacting with the rain, it was reacting with the sun. It had a kind of a nature by itself. No, it was like a human being or a living being. So I was happy about discovering that. I was not expecting all the layers that was coming out from the reality of this handicraft building. You know? So it was a kind of a very, very special surprise. And then it was a kind of a discovering. Of course, we were never able to design something like that. No, it's very difficult. But then the light is always a kind of a surprise. No, when you have the light and then this kind of feeling as if you are inside a wood. It was really very, very special, and we could have never done a render with such an imagination of all this complexity happening. And also here, you know, the space inside, which is a fluid space with all this light coming through this two layers of wicker. It was really very, very special. And from here you could see all the rest of the building, because it's a fluid building, it's totally flowing. And I was very grateful to this lady, the artist of this very, very big baby, because she's a filmmaker. She's a very good filmmaker called Isabel Cochet here in Barcelona, and she was given this space to do her intervention. And she decided, I don't want to destroy the space, so I will not project a film inside here. If you have to project a film inside here, you may have to make everything black. I will do a big piece which will represent the future of Spain. So she had to represent the future of Spain, and she said the future of Spain is our kids, is our children. And also she did a very big child, which is of course a kind of a Chinese obsession. She was very, very clever, and in fact she had an incredible result. People was entering into this room and they were getting mad, you know. It was a room where everybody was screaming and applauding, and the kid was nearly moving, because she's a filmmaker, so she did this in Hollywood. So this is a kind of one of this Hollywood machine. If you touch it, it touches nearly like the touch of a baby, and it slightly moves, and you know, it moves the head, it moves the eyes, and so people was thinking that the kid was reacting to their noise. So it was a very interactive room, even if the kid was programmed before and it was not reacting at all. No, they had this feeling, but this was not true. This is me. And so this was a very nice thing. I'm very grateful to Isabel Cochet that she didn't destroy this room. She let exactly the space with the two layers of wicker, and she made this room the most visited and the most loved in the Spanish Pavilion spaces. So now the Spanish Pavilion is kept. Also the big kid is kept, the big baby is now kept into the Shanghai Expo Museum, and this Spanish Pavilion has to become something different. So now they are working on it, and they are deciding that inside here they will have a bar for people, a cabaret, other functions, so that the Chinese people will have the opportunity to go inside here. But we have the firemen telling us that we cannot maintain it with wicker, because they accept it during the expo, they will never accept it during reality. And so now we are reworking, and we have a beautiful opportunity to see how a handicraft material can maybe be imitated or done by a machine which is simulating this capacity of the hands. And here in IAAC you have this fantastic opportunity, no? You have this difficulty, or also wonderful possibility of seeing how handicraft things can become very highly technological things. And we are in this moment. Very new materials are now created, and very new machines are now created, which are really giving us the possibility to go back to a kind of a very old tradition and to reinsert it into our buildings, into our constructions. And for example, now we are studying how this material, which is wicker, can be substituted by a similar material which is fiberglass, but fiberglass produced in how do you say, in a section similar to a small piece of wood, and how a machine can work it exactly as hands can work it. So I think it's a beautiful moment, a beautiful possibility, and let's see what's happening, because of course the difficulty is always budget, and we will see, you know, if the budget, the new client will permit a beautiful substitution of it, and we will try our best, and if it's not fantastic, never mind, we will try again in some other experiments. So I don't know, I think, I don't know, well, maybe we have a very 10 minutes more. I will go very quickly on the other projects that we have here. This is a small project that we did in another Expo, Garden Expo in Xi'an. We had, I don't know, a budget of 15,000 euros, something like that, nothing. And we did a construction in this Garden Expo, which was very much about reusing bamboo, reusing natural material, and making a garden which was growing around this natural material. What we didn't know is that in Xi'an it is very difficult to grow vegetation. So the natural construction was there, but the growing things were not there. So we started to introduce kind of games, kind of paper birds or paper flowers inside this wicker containers, and it was a very nice moment. People was kind of playing with it, fish and birds and flowers done in paper, which were introducing the colors of flowers which were not growing for that time of the year in the climate of Xi'an. So it was a nice experiment, also in an expo in China, and also in the same direction of using natural material and transform them and make them become a space, a garden, architecture, sustains for other type of things. And this is another project we are now starting to build in the north of China, in Sichuan, with a great painter, a great master. You see, this is the sculpture that they have there. This is a place where he was born. He was called Chanda Chen. I'm sure, for sure I pronounce it very, very badly, because it's very difficult to make a Chinese pronunciation. But we were very happy to meet him, let's say. He's dead, of course. He was of the same age of Picasso, but his history is fantastic. He flew out from China in the 50s, and he met Picasso in Côte d'Azur in the 60s, together with his wife. And Picasso was playing with him. He gave brushes to Picasso. Picasso made this kind of portrait of Chanda Chen, and with this portrait we did our project. No, the imprints of this drawing of Picasso was becoming the plan of a possible museum for Chanda Chen, and also the sections or the figures. We cut out the sections, and they became the sections of the pavilions we wanted to have there. So here, more or less, it was the first sketch that we did for this museum, small museum in a mountain in the north of China for Chanda Chen. And each one of the pavilions is a space where things can happen. Of course, we discovered very soon that they have no collections, because the paintings from Chanda Chen are more expensive than the paintings of Pablo Picasso. So here we will have projections or reproduction in very beautiful scale, and we will have a reproduction of a garden. He was an eclectic person. He was painting, making sculpture, cooking, making gardens, making his own houses. So we will make also some of these things happen in the museum. And the museum, as you see, is a kind of an invention. And the structure is bamboo. Also, we are trying very hard to introduce bamboo in this as a kind of how do you say, compressed bamboo in the structure of this Zander Chen Museum, and a part of the pavilions are open so that you can see outside, and some other parts are displaying in some ways the art of Zander Chen in some reproductions that we will think later. So I always show these beautiful photos of the first stone, because this is very much what we are learning. Now we are going in the world and we are learning things. For example, the rituals that they love to do in China, but also the colors, and also the feng shui. For example, this was done on a day which was 1/1/2011, so it was 1/1/11, and they love this kind of symbolic things. They always consult the calendar before making anything, because this feng shui is really very important to them. But also in this project, we are a little like in a diplomatic world. You know, Zander Chen was running away from the communist China, and so he was living outside. He was living in Brazil, California, then Taiwan, and of course in China they couldn't talk about this master, even if they knew he was a great master, a great Chinese master, but he was politically banned. Now it's not so much anymore. Now they can build the museum reminding him, they can be proud again about him, but the son and daughters of Zander Chen, there are very many, they are scattered in the world. They can speak Chinese, but they were never in communist China, and one of them is married in Madrid. So it was very, very beautiful. We had the opportunity to meet her. She's called Sing. She's the youngest daughter of Zander Chen. She's wearing a collar that we have been designing, and she was very proud, but I am also very proud. And here is the governor of the place, who is coming in a kind of a delegation with many people from Sichuan, and there was this kind of beautiful meeting between the youngest daughter of Zander Chen, who is married with a Madrid businessman, together with the governor, and we are all making toasts together, and I had the feeling that we are opening up again kind of barriers which were remaining during many years, and now we are in a very beautiful moment where these barriers are off. It's very complicated for all of us, but also is very beautiful and really gives fantastic opportunities. But this I always say, you know, the face of Danny, who is a wonderful collaborator, is a face of very afraid, because usually what you do in a dinner with Chinese people is to make a kind of a toast competition, and to see who is resisting more. And of course the day before he was making a toast competition with the governor, and he was killed by the alcohol. So this was the day after, and he didn't want to make a competition, but the governor wanted. So he was totally afraid. Oh my God, I don't want to make that. But okay, this is part of the stories. Now I go very fast because I think we have no time. This is a wonderful project we have in our hands. We are developing now, and it's in a piece of Shanghai. We are making 3 blocks, but in fact the 3 blocks are one big universities, and we are trying to integrate this university with the public space, as you have been learning now. Until now, you know very well that we love public spaces. On the ground floor is public space, and on the upper floor is the university, connecting with a lot of bridges, connecting the many buildings. And also this series of roofs are making a kind of a public space also inside the university. So you don't just have public space on the ground floor, but also instead of corridors, you have these wonderful spaces where you can study and stay underneath this incredible structure that we are designing right now, and that we hope the Chinese client is not going to cut for budget. You know, everybody's telling me it's totally difficult to build in China because they absolutely don't care about what you design. They, at the end, they do what they want, and so we will see. No, that was the renders, and this is one of the things we are experimenting now in China. Or we are also experimenting in a kind of a tower we are designing now in Taiwan. This is for a big bank and insurance company, and they have this idea of this is our people's. People is doing our bank. So we said, okay, but we are Catalan, you know. Also in Catalonia we have this idea of people is doing a tower, and so we brought a kind of a I hope you now know it, what it is, no? A castel, a tower done with people, and we told them that we will do a tower in Taiwan, which is like a tower of castellers. Also, the client is called Gu. Gu in Chinese means cypress, and he asked us to introduce a kind of a cypress symbol into the building, and we are trying to do it now. No, this is a building which is trying to get this intensity and try to reproduce it into the tower, so that this could really be the cypress tower or the Gu Tower belonging to the family of China Trust. So now also we are under studying. We don't know what it will happen, and we will tell you what is the experience of going so far away and having a building in a very different place. And this is another building that you might not know. This is a building that we had been done just now in Barcelona. It's very easy for you to go and see. It's in the middle of Barcelona. L'Oréal, you know very well, no? L'Oréal. L'Oréal came to us. They make hair products, and they said, oh, we would like you to transform this very ugly space into a wow space. So this was very naive, but we were laughing very much, no? This wow space. And we tried to do it, and we were working, as you see, by hands with a lot of collage at the very beginning, working with the very material of L'Oréal, you know, the many posters, the many images that was coming from the history of L'Oréal, and we were trying to do our space with the same curves of the hair or the publicity of hair which are coming from L'Oréal. And in fact we discovered the beauty, hair, curls, curves are very Catalan, very Barcelona, very ensanche, very modernistic, and also very deep. No, what the curve means is a lot. And so we were trying to give to L'Oréal a space which would be something like that. Of course, then they are a big company, and I tell you, working with a big company is very difficult because nobody is really deciding. So everything you show them and say, oh, fantastic, now we will show to the director, and then now we will show to the director on top of the director, and at the end, everything is becoming very, how do you say, when you take out the cream from the milk, absolutely diluted. So we did our best to make it remain as a kind of complex space with a little complexity, little natural material, but of course under my taste I would have done more. No, you have some reflecting points where you get more of the space. They wanted a totally white space. Is not so white. We could introduce some ceramic, which is introducing more colors on the tones of gray, and this was our desire, no? To make a place which is becoming very, very, very complex, and then in this complexity, which is also corresponding to the complexity of beauty, you find the products and you find what L'Oréal wants to tell you. And as you see, we could convince L'Oréal to introduce some natural material, but very, very little. But in fact, these lamps are very special, and they are changing very much the very aseptic place that L'Oréal wanted. Then we have thousands of things. We are doing a beautiful church in Rome, which is fantastic. I don't know. We lost a competition in Milan for the Expo, which is very beautiful. But maybe we will be able to do something, even if we couldn't win the competition. Everything was about the dome and how to reinvent the dome. And what else? And then we open up the Enric Miralles Foundation. That is also something more that you can come and visit in Barcelona. It's just underneath our office. This was the opening with our fathers of the foundation, Rafael Moneo, Oriol Boigas, Elias Torres, and Mose Mostafavi. So the great fathers giving the benediction to the space. And in this space, many things are happening now. We are doing projects like the one you are working now, or we are doing experiments with other students coming from many parts of the world. We are doing workshops, we are doing parties, presentations. So I hope that soon you have the opportunity to come and mix together with us and increase this kind of party feeling that we have in the Fundación. Thank you.
Any questions for Benedetta? No questions?
I talk too much, I'm sorry.
No, I just want to make a very quick question.
There is a question.
Hello, I'm Sophia. I come from China. So I have two questions. So should I ask one by one or ask them together?
One by one, because my memory is very small.
Okay. The first one is about the first project that won market in Barcelona, because I'm very interested in personally. So I plan to visit that, but I didn't have time. So I will do that after this course. But I always have that curiosity. So the shape of the roof is wonderful, and I like the color, and I like those the way to make it a little bit abstract, those things. But I'm curious why you let the steel truss and arc through the roof and let it show to outside. So is that some idea you plan to show that?
Yes. Yes, I think it's nice, you know, because you have the roof going like this.
Yes.
And then the arches, they have their own necessity.
Yeah.
And they are going on another geometry. But then you see them going in and out of the structure. And they work perfectly well. But when you're outside, you could see them. But also when you are inside, you have the possibility to notice that this roof is not floating. It's in fact, it has a trick, and the trick is visible. So this was, yes, it was wished.
So somehow it's like something, when you're inside you can see, or if you're the neighborhood, you can also see from your windows, balconies, right?
Yes, yeah, the neighbors can see many different views, you know, they have views on top. It's a pity, the previous office from Emiliano was just looking one of the very beautiful views of Santa Caterina, but now he changed office, so now he doesn't have this view anymore. But really, the neighbors have incredible different views, and No, you're looking at the model, yes. You're more downstairs.
Okay,
But there
thank
were
you.
ideas from the city and from the neighbors to make some device to give a look to the roof for everybody. They never put it in place, it's a pity, but they could do it. I always insist, but the architects, we can arrive until a certain point, you know.
Yes, thank you. The other question is about the Chinese clients, because I have a lot of experience to work with them before, but my position was different. First, I was working in Shanghai. I can sense the architects in Shanghai, they have a lower position in the client's view. So then, after I work in Hong Kong, I can sense the difference. They will give us more time. So I just want to ask, when the Chinese clients, they ask those Western architecture firm to work, will they also show you the Chinese history? Will they say something? They hope you can also somehow combine the history, or they want just something totally different?
We usually are the one who would like to introduce a kind of Chinese history. For example, in Fudan, in that university that we are now working on, we were telling to the dean, we want these roofs coming from the idea of Chinese roofs. And we say, oh, please, I don't want to see Chinese things here. You know, because the dean is really wishing to have a kind of a very international building, something which is relating with the rest of the world. He wants foreign students to come to his university, so he's afraid that if we use Chinese references, people would think, oh, this is a too Chinese university. So we have to be very subtle in that. We have to take Chinese references and transform them in something that you don't recognize. We're trying.
Okay. And what about the time? Do you think they give you enough time, or it's too fast in China?
It's always a disaster. They always say, oh, you don't have time, we have to build it in 3 weeks. And then you wait 2 years and a half and you get ruined totally. So it's a disaster. It's very difficult to work in China. I think Chinese people, you love to say that you are very, very fast. But many times you are not fast, and it's not because you are not fast in building, because politics in China are complicated, sometimes more complicated than here. So decision taking can be very long. So we are now experimenting this, we are discovering this.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, just maybe a last question, which is a bit related with what we're doing here in the summer school, because we're working with the idea of the productive city, and you have been producing a lot of buildings, and through those buildings you have been producing different kind of situations or different kind of aspects. You have producing colors, you have producing geometries, you have producing craftsmanship put together in a building, and we are here talking a lot about producing food, producing energy, producing objects, and I would like maybe to ask you if you have a top 3 of what the buildings should produce within a sustainable productive city. What would that be for you as an architect?
In general? You mean
the buildings of our cities, the buildings of a productive city? What should be the, I don't know, top 3 priorities that we should take into consideration? Social interaction, energy,
I don't know, in a
history,
way,
culture.
Integrating is very important, no? So I think history is very important, or the situation, knowing the situation is very important. And I always think that this is kind of really inserting your building in the real situation. This is very sustainable. This will make the building belong to a real demand, belong to a real necessity, and that's why being very sustainable. Then I think this experimental part, which is in relation with investigating new materials or investigating new ways of making energy work in the building, is nowadays a very fantastic interest. I don't think you can make a building only with that. I think you have to mix that with the rest, no? With other desires or with other materials, as for example this of integrating very much. So now we are working, also interdisciplinary work is very new and is something that we now like very much. No? It was not so much like this in the past. And now, as architects, maybe because we discover that if we remain alone, we will be lost, we are mixing more with the society and mixing more with other professions. And this is very, very good fun, very nice. We like it very much, and it's really one of the new features of architecture. New discipline. More or less.
Thank you, Benedetta.
Thank you.